What's happening, my lovely people? I'm SystemCheck66, welcome to the channel, and we've got some news on the new Resident Evil Reboot movie that's supposed to be coming out. I believe it's being produced by James Wan of Saw fame, and it's being directed by Johannes Roberts, I believe. He directed 47 Meters Down, The Strangers, Pray at Night, and I think that's about it. So if you're watching this during the Halloween period and you're not catching this later on, then happy Halloween. Anyway, let's get straight into it. Resident Evil feature film reboot will go back to scary roots of first two games, cast announced. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts after we've gone through all this and what I think about it all. There's quite a bit happening in the world of Resident Evil right now. With new game Resident Evil Village on the way and Netflix developing both the live-action series and animated series. Additionally, Johannes Roberts, 47 Meters Down, The Strangers, Pray at Night, is directing a feature film reboot for Constantine film, and we've got casting news today. The origin story adaptation of the games is set in Raccoon City in 1998, Deadline reports. The cast includes Kaya Scodelario, Cruel, and also she was in one of the Pirates of the Caribbean films, but I know her best as Effie from Skins, because I am British, and Skins was on around the time I was a teenager, so yeah, it was a pretty cool series. I liked it, but I really like her as an actress, and she can pull off quite a good American accent, so yeah. Kaya will be pretty good as Claire, believe me. Hopefully, fingers crossed. So she's playing Claire Redfield alongside Hannah John Kamen, Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think she played the bad guy in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Ghost, or Spectre, or whatever her name was. She's going to be Jill Valentine. Robbie Amell upload as Chris Redfield. I haven't seen him before. Tom Hopper, same, haven't seen him before. The Umbrella Academy as Albert Wesker, I have seen a photo of him, and he does look kind of Wesker-ish. Avan Jogia, Zombieland Double Tap. I actually watched that film yesterday. It's quite funny, and I've got to be honest, I don't think Avan's going to be a great Leon. He was so boring. Like, the girl who played the dunce, the blonde girl, the actress, she was wicked. She was the best part of that film. Oh, and the Bill Murray cameo at the end of it. But yeah, Avan Jogia as Leon. Sorry, man. No. And Neil McDowell, Yellowstone, who I have no idea about. He's playing William Birkin. Now, this is where I start to get Paul Anderson vibes and what has come before. So, Johannes Roberts goes on to say, with this movie, I really wanted to go back to the original first two games and recreate the terrifying visceral experience I had when I first played them, whilst at the same time telling a grounded human story about a small dying American town. Sounds good so far, okay? That feels both relatable and relevant to today's audiences, said Roberts in a statement shared by Deadline. The movie will be releasing theatrically in 2021, and it's said to kick off a new universe inspired by storylines and characters from Capcom's classic Resident Evil games. That's where the red flags start to appear. Producers on the reboot are Robert Kulzer of Constantine Film, Paul W. Sanderson's Resident Evil franchise, which he oversaw, James Harris for T-Shot Productions, I Am Not a Serial Killer, and Hartley Gorenstein, The Boys. That's cool. Constantine Film CEO Martin Muskowitz is executive producer, with Victor Hadida, Davis Films. Alex Zhang Greyhound is co-executive producer, and Dylan Tarrison, Hell or High Water of Constantine Film, is co-producing. Alex Westmore and Colin Scully of Constantine Film are overseeing the project. So it would seem that James Wan isn't involved in this anymore, which is a bit of a shame. Okay, well, I can't find the original site that had more information, but essentially what it said was it go back to 1998, and it would tell the tale of Claire and Chris, meeting up, Claire looking for Chris. And in this timeline, it seems like she finds him. Jill Valentine's involved, as well as Wesker, Leon, and also William Birkin. But Leon's a government agent at this point. And they said they're going to try and go between the Spencer Mansion incident and also Raccoon City. And this is where I have a problem. First off, making Leon a government agent. They're changing things, once again. They're completely changing things, because he doesn't become a government agent until after the incident in Raccoon City. This is where I have a big problem. It's changing things for the sake of changing things. It doesn't need to be changed. It's better when he's a rookie cop. The actor they've got playing him, I did not rate in Zombieland at all, so poor casting choice on that one. The girl who's playing Claire Redfield, She's really cool. She's a good actress. I have faith in her. Jill Valentine's actress. She was really good in Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think she can pull it off. And the other guys, I don't really know. The people playing Wesker, Birkin, and also Chris, I'm not familiar with. But I have read that they are pretty good actors. So, they're doing well with 90% of the cast. And we never know. Like, the guy from Zombieland, he could turn out to be actually quite a decent Leon. But the fact they're changing it and they're getting Leon in as a government agent already, they're trying to take on the Spencer Mansion as well as the Raccoon City incident. They're taking on too much. Once again, they're trying to cram things into this one film where all we really want as fans is the Spencer Mansion incident recreated in live action, and put on the silver screen. That's all we want. And yes, you would have to cut bits out here and there because it would be overly long. It'd be like a 3-4 hour film if you had them searching every single room of the Spencer Mansion. So, you'd have to condense it into a hour and a half film, I'm thinking, which would work. That would work. I know the old films are about 90 minutes long, but you could actually make this like an hour and a bit, hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes maybe. So it can be done. It can be done. Romero's original script actually pulled it off quite well, even though there was things that he changed and stuff that I didn't like from the games, but the actual layout and sort of the scene by scene, having read the script, was on point. It was quite good. It was actually quite good, and he added in like the Tyrant as well as some hunters and things like that into it. So it can be done. And they should stick to that. They shouldn't be taking on too much at the moment, And this idea of having the Spencer Mansion as well as the Raccoon City incident and having it all in this one film. How long is the film going to be? Who knows? I'm guessing maybe it would have to be like an hour and a bit. They probably will have the end of the Spencer Mansion sort of open the film and then have it take place in Raccoon City, and I can tell that they're just going to do an apocalypse with it, a Resident Evil apocalypse, where they just threw everything into that film. It was so fast paced and quick that it lost that charm of what the games produced. Do you know what I mean? That slow build horror that Alien did so well, and The Thing and films like that, and the Resident Evil games have pulled off multiple times. That slow build horror that reaches a crescendo and then it all kicks off. I love that sort of horror. Dead Space does that very well as well. So by doing this, it's taken on too much. It's going to be fucking just blistering. It's going to be retina scorching in terms of them throwing things at you, at the audience. And for people not familiar with Resident Evil, I don't think they're going to pull it off very well for them, They're going to think it's just another fast-paced sort of throwaway horror franchise, which Resident Evil isn't that. And even when it is action-packed, Resident Evil 4, etc., it's done in a really, really good way. And it's actually quite long, that experience. It's over 20 to 24 hours. So I don't like the things they've changed. Yeah, making Leon a government agent, makes me think they're just trying to speed up the process. They're trying to get all these characters in the film, get all these situations, these scenarios, the incidents out of the way so they can bring on the next film and then just go on a tangent with it. And I don't like that because that's what the Paul Anderson films did. And this Netflix series fucking abomination is trying to do as well, where it's got like Wesker's 2 daughters and then it splits in time. It goes from 1998 to fucking present day and there's like some twins or something. I don't know. I know I've covered it before. Go and watch the other video. But yeah, the live action Netflix series sounds trash. The CGI series, that looks good. The live action, no, not so good. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I think they're just trying to rush things before they've even took baby steps. They're trying to run. All the players are still there. The Konstantin dudes, I know Victor Hadida, he was in charge of the original films and stuff, so he's still involved. And yeah, like I said, it just seems like a rush job. It really does. I mean, the whole point of Resident Evil 2 is the fact that Claire doesn't find her brother in that game, in that game's story. She just misses him. And it's almost like, at first, you feel like depressed along with her because she hasn't found her brother, you don't know what's happened to him. Once she finds a diary, She knows he's okay, you know, and then she eventually meets up with him in Code Veronica, but right at the very end of Code Veronica, them two meet up. So it's this ongoing, you know, plot and story, and the way that it spans, you know, and it progresses, is handled extremely well, and it kept us wanting them to meet up, you know, and it just kept pulling that away from us until eventually we got the meeting. Then you've got Leon, obviously, like I said, as a government agent. They've scrapped him being, if this is to be believed, they scrapped him being a rookie cop, which is the whole point of his character in the original Resident Evil 2, is that he's way out of his depth, fully out of his depth. You know, he thinks it's his first day, he's going to be a cop, finds out, nah, you know what I mean? And in the remake, which I quite liked, he's suffering a hangover because he was drinking the night before, so he's actually quite late as well. And he arrives in Raccoon City, meets up with Claire Redfield, and shit hits the fan, essentially. And he doesn't know what to do to an extent, but he tries his best, you know, to still be a police officer. But also, he's, like, on a human level, he's not robotic in that way, you know. He's meeting people, he's trying to rescue them, he's got that more human element to his character, as well as being a badass rookie cop. So he's almost like a civilian, but he's, you know, got a firearm and he knows procedure, and that's what I loved about Leon. And they're throwing that away. They're basically going, no, he's a government agent now, so he's already trained by the government to probably handle situations like this, etc, etc, and that leads to him just not being as likable, I would say, as the rookie cop Leon from Resident Evil 2, if that's the way they want to go. I mean, Leon's great in the, you know, the games that preceded that. He's a great character, but we all remember Leon being this rookie cop, and that's where a lot of us ended up liking his character, and then he just progressed, you know, and evolved as a character as time went on. But it was because of the situation in Raccoon City that made him become the government agent and stuff, and be a little bit more cautious, and I'd say stoic. A little bit like how Neo transforms from Matrix 1 into Neo in Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revolutions. That type of evolution of the character. You know, Resident Evil characters aren't super deep in a lot of ways, but they're still great characters. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, they are deep, but they're not Silent Hill 2 James Sunderland deep. Do you see where I'm going with this? But they're still likable characters, and they're still great. So that's one thing that I really don't like. And then we have Jill Valentine, the chick who played the bad guy in Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think it's Ghost. She's cool, she's a good actress. I can see her playing Jill, but I can also see her, I don't know, she doesn't fit Jill's archetype, if you know what I mean. She doesn't seem like Jill in many ways, but I could be wrong. The girl they've got playing Claire, Kea Scalario, she's a really good actress. I guarantee you she will do a good job with Claire. Guarantee you. She's a very, very good actress. And the other players, I don't know them fully. So, but I have heard that, like, Tom Hopper, you know, Neil McDowell, and also Robbie Amell are actually really good actors. And in the series that they're from, or that they are, you know, in, their stars in, they do a good job. So I'm going to take it from people's comments and stuff that, you know, they'll do a good job with these characters. And yeah, you know, Tom Hopper does look a little bit like Wesker, I can see it. So I mean, this is a hard one really. It comes down to, is this guy bullshitting like Paul W. Sanderson has bullshitted in the past? I've seen the trailer for Monster Hunter. Also got shout out Brian T, because, you know, he hit me up on Twitter. That's my friend. He hit me up on Twitter and he said, dude, I just saw the Monster Hunter trailer and you were right, it looks fucking dreadful, and it really does look trash. Like, I don't know what army soldiers and shit are doing in Monster Hunter. I might be wrong, maybe in Monster Hunter there's army soldiers and stuff. I haven't played any of the games, but from what I can tell, those games don't have like army soldiers and stuff, if you don't count the Peace Walker side missions where Snake fights the monsters and tries to capture them. So yeah, as far as I can tell, Paul Anderson is up to his old tricks again. I believe Constantin Films are involved in the Monster Hunter film. There you go. So I believe that Johannes Roberts, I don't know, I believe that he is pulling another Paul W. Sanderson. He's saying, I'm fans of the games and blah blah blah, and you know, talking a little hype and chatting a lot of shit. And I don't think this is going to be very good. Sorry. That's my thoughts. I think it's probably because I'm burned from the older films. The only film I really kind of like, and it's a 7 out of 10 film, don't get it, misconstrued. My feelings of that film is it's a 7 out of 10 film. It's enjoyable. It doesn't tread on the lore and the legacy of Resident Evil and the source material too heavily. It still does, but not to a point where I'm like, oh, it's offensive. So the first film's the only one that I really got on with. I know a lot of people seem to like Apocalypse. I don't know why. I really don't, because that film's fucking dreadful. It's one of the worst films I've ever watched in my life. But the first film, 7 out of 10. Yeah, guilty pleasure, let's just say that. But the CGI films are way better. And if I want to have a Resident Evil experience, I'll just play the games, the collections that have been released over the years, or I'll read the books. Do you know what I mean? Or whatever. I'll listen to the soundtracks that I own. There's so many different ways to get a proper Resident Evil experience, and it isn't through Paul Anderson's dreadful fucking films that he made, and it's not through this horrible Netflix show that they're trying to cash in on. And I'm guessing I'm going out on a limb here, but it probably won't be from this upcoming reboot thing that they're trying to get out as well. But I could be wrong. I could be proven completely wrong, and it could work out. Who knows? Johannes Roberts could pull it off. I just don't know. Maybe he'll make everything work. But from what I'm reading, nah, I'm sorry. Everything seems like a mishmash, and it's just like a collage of shit they're trying to throw at the wall once again. It's a shame that Paul W.S. Anderson didn't take more time with Resident Evil, and just better the first film, just because he's made like films like Event Horizon and the first Mortal Kombat, and I don't care what anyone says. Mortal Kombat, the first film, it's a guilty pleasure, and it's a fun film. It's a decent film. You can't deny it. It's not a decent film. It's a decent film. Event Horizon's a really, really decent horror film. I like it. I like the concept. I like the gore. It was violent. Like, it was a fully 18 rated horror film. I like the actors in it. Obviously, Lawrence Fishburne's always good in whatever he stars in. So yeah, and all the other actors are great in it. So he's pulled off a decent horror film before, and he's pulled off an alright adaptation of a video game before. For him to fuck up the Resident Evil series, because he just went on a tangent and he was like, oh, what's popular now? 3D, Avatar. I'll get the 3D thing, and I'll get the 3D cameras, and I'll do the 3D thing. What was popular back then? Oh, action films, like The Matrix. Do you know what I mean? And so he went with that, and it became stupid. Like, it got ridiculous, and it was like, this isn't what Resident Evil's about, dude. This is not why we like Resident Evil. The fact that Johannes Roberts is saying that he wants to go back to horror, that has me interested. That could be the defining thing for this reboot. That could be the defining thing. But I don't like the mishmash of ideas and this scope that they have. I don't think it's going to work, because it's too big. That's the thing. They need to go back to basics and start from the beginning again, and just tell that original Mansion incident story. You can make a few little changes. Jurassic Park, adapted from Crichton's book, made a lot of changes, but it did it in the right way, and it condensed all those ideas in the book into this sort of like, I forget how long it was. It was like an hour and something, wasn't it? Film, yeah. But it adapted Crichton's novel in a good way, and even Crichton came on and wrote some of the script with Spielberg and was involved with it, and he liked how it turned out. Do you see what I'm saying? So they can do the same thing with the first Resident Evil story. They can adapt it in their own way, but just keep the basics and the source material there, and that template there, and then just work on it. Coming from someone who edits videos, has produced music in the past, if I did a remix of a popular tune, and people that I know have remixed popular tunes, we just take that template and then adapt it to ourselves, but we still keep what everybody loves about the original song in there. That's my point I'm trying to make. So it's not that big of a task, it really isn't. And having all these ideas swirling around, and of course Konstantin involved still, yeah, it's one of those things that Capcom have already been through, where the action game Resident Evil sold better than the survival horror game Resident Evil, so they wanted to go down the action route. And eventually they lost the OG fans, and all the new fans, they just jumped ship because the new Call of Duty was coming out, or the new Gears of War, or whatever the hell it was that was coming out that took their interest away from Resident Evil. And so they decided to bring it back to horror with 7 and try and appeal to the old fans as well as the ones that were still hanging on, myself included. Though I won't lie, after 6 I was fucking done. I'm not going to lie to you. I was pretty much done after 6. If it wasn't for 7, I don't know what I would have done. I would have made videos on Resident Evil, but previous games, and talking about old Resident Evil stuff as opposed to new stuff. So yeah, 7 brought it back for me, and I liked it. It was decent. And then the remake of 2, you know, I really enjoyed that. I thought it was a very good remake. And once again, not as good as the first game's remake or the original Resident Evil 2, but, you know, still a decent remake, and in my opinion, it was a good game. So I don't know what to think with this new Reboot movie that's coming out. If it ever does come out, this has been on the cards for a long time now, ever since the final chapter. Oh, the memories of that film. It's a nightmare in itself, that film. It's horrible. Absolutely horrible. It's the worst one, I think, out of the bunch. It's even worse than Apocalypse, and that's saying a lot. After that, they wanted to reboot it straight away. And I did think that they were originally going to do the Mansion Incident, which they had been saying they were going to do. And it had James Wan involved, and I thought, well, the traps featured in the Spencer Mansion, James Wan's Saw franchise, or at least the first film, the way the traps work in that, the way everything's shot and dingy looking and all that stuff, I thought might be a good fit. James Wan could pull it off. Now I'm reading that he's not involved in this, so it's just left to Johannes Roberts and the Constantin boys. And like I said just a minute ago, we could have a Capcom situation where if it doesn't sell well, it doesn't do well, it doesn't make bank at the box office, they could turn around and say, let's just make a couple more action film Resident Evils, you know, to bring in the crowds again. Which, to be honest, it doesn't really matter to us OG fans and stuff of the series, does it? Does it really matter? No, it doesn't. We've got enough to keep us entertained. You know, we've got enough of the games in our collection. We've got the books, like we've got the music, the soundtracks, all that other stuff, the CGI films. We've got loads to keep us entertained. We don't need to you know, be that bothered with the films at the end of the day. If the films come out and they're rubbish, no harm, no foul, essentially. It would be nice to see a proper live action, like, telling of the Mansion Incident, but it looks like we're not going to get that anytime soon. So yeah, we got enough to keep us happy, really. We got the new game coming out, Village. We got the CGI Netflix series coming out. So the film could come out and be a complete pile of shit, and we're not really going to be that bothered, are we? Let's all be honest, we're not going to be that bothered, are we? Now, if you are fans of the films, that's fine. Everybody's got their guilty pleasures. I'm a fan of Doom. The movie, that's my guilty pleasure, and yes, it doesn't stack up to the games, I know this. It's terrible, I know this, but it's still enjoyable in a weird, sadistic kind of way, and I am a fan of Dead or Alive because I love Holly Valance. And also I thought, you know, the fighting in it and stuff was fun. The film's crap, of course it is. It's terrible. Both of those films are horrendous. Who am I to say that the Resident Evil films suck and people like them when those are, you know, just as bad? But at the same time, I'm not a huge fan of like Dead or Alive, do you know what I mean? In the same way I am Resident Evil. I am a fan of Doom, but more so the 2016 game and Eternal. I love the older games, but I grew into Doom when 2016 and Eternal came out, you know, because I was very young when I played the older games. But when it comes to Resident Evil, because it's like, you know, that's my addiction in terms of video games, like it's the Resident Evil series first and foremost above anything. That's why, you know, I hate the film so much at the end of the day. But if you like them, I'm not judging you, you know, I am not judging you. I'm just saying it doesn't work for me. That's the thing. They don't work for me. And you got to admit, whether or not you like one to... I can't remember what the last one that I watched was. Retribution. 1 to Retribution. You could like those, and there was things in them that I said, no, you know, there's some cool things in that film, and some of the other ones. whether or not you like 1 to Retribution, you can't deny that the final chapter was fucking dreadful. It really was fucking dreadful. Like, just the cinematography, the way that everything was shot, how it just kept zooming in to fights, and the cutting was horrendous. Like, that film was trash. It was a trash film. You know, there was no real fun to be had because it was shot so poorly. So, yeah, like, that was it. Because even I own the old films. I had them on Blu-ray and DVD. I had the first 3 on DVD. I still got the first one. I had 1 to 3 on DVD, and then the other 2, Retribution, the one before that, on Blu-ray. And then when I watched the final chapter, I went downstairs, I grabbed every film except for the first one, and I sold them. Because the final chapter was it. It genuinely fucking pissed me off and offended me. That film offended me, and it takes a lot for a film to offend me. But that film offended me. I was not happy, and from that I was like, I'm sorry, but Paul Anderson, you are a fucking hack. You really are a hack. Like, I'll still watch Event Horizon and Mortal Kombat to this day, but that's 90s Paul Anderson. Paul Anderson now, no, it's just a Mila Jovovich circle jerk, and that's what Monster Hunter is as well. So, I wish Constantin Films would stop raping the Resident Evil series. Get a clue, maybe. Actually ask some fans what they'd like to see and what they'd want from it. That could help. Seeing as Capcom have done that in the past, and a lot of games companies are doing that, and they're getting fan feedback, and they're adapting the games and stuff and the way they do things to fan feedback. You know, and I think maybe that Constantin, no matter how much money the previous Resident Evil films made, should get some fan feedback. That's it. And a lot of fans will tell them, just go back to basics. Just do the mansion. That's all anyone wants to see. Cast the stars members and do it. Anyway, I want to hear what your thoughts and opinions are on the Resident Evil reboot down in the comments below. That's what they're there for. If you like this video, go ahead and smash the like button. And if you like me as a content creator, then consider subscribing to the channel. I'll always be covering Resident Evil content. And until next time, I have been System Check 66, and I'm signing out. Peace.